it's Ahlia here, also known as Coach Ahlia, and I work with founders and CEOs, entrepreneurs and leaders, helping them do work they love and be remarkable leaders. Now, one of the questions that I ask my clients at the beginning or end of almost every coaching call is, what do you want to acknowledge yourself for? Now, this is an incredibly difficult question for most leaders I work with to answer, especially at the beginning. They sort of squirm and they don't even know how to answer it. And as with many things in life, it gets easier over time. And I'll tell you why it's really important to self-acknowledge. First of all, as a leader, we are often doing the acknowledging, we're acknowledging other people, and there's not a lot of acknowledgement coming back. And so if we don't learn and develop this skill to self-acknowledge, it can be very, very hard to get through those tough days and just even kind of the grind of being a leader, running a business, running a team. And so, one, it just supports you in feeling good and being self-sufficient, so you're not necessarily waiting for other people to acknowledge you. You actually have developed the skill to acknowledge yourself and genuinely feel good as a result. The second is that when you self-acknowledge, or when you acknowledge things, they stay in existence, like either it's positive reinforcement. And when we don't acknowledge things, then they sort of disappear, like they didn't even happen. And you really want to make sure that when you're taking actions that are bold or important, or you're displaying certain character traits that are effective, or things that you really want to be and how you really want to show up in the world, that you do acknowledge those things so that, again, it becomes this positive reinforcing cycle. So one thing that, for example, I want to acknowledge myself for is just shooting this video and letting the world know that I'm writing a book and that I'm shooting these videos as a way to pull together some content, because otherwise writing for me is pretty difficult. And really, the way of being that's required for me to do this is committed. I really need to be committed to be doing this, because it takes a lot of time and energy for me to put these videos together and post them and all of that. And I really have to be generous, because if I wasn't being generous, then I'd just be like, forget it. Forget the book, forget all the people I want to help. I just want to go do something that's a little bit easier, or maybe less time consuming, or takes less energy. And so for me, I really want to acknowledge myself for being committed to making a difference and really being generous with my time and my energy in putting out these videos. So that's what acknowledging sounds like. It's like you're acknowledging the action, and you're also acknowledging the way of being, the character trait that you're demonstrating or displaying by taking that action, or whatever it took to actually take that action. So often my clients will acknowledge themselves for showing up on a coaching call, because there are lots of things to do in a day, and they don't need to show up to that coaching call. They don't need to spend an hour of their week stepping back, reflecting on themselves, strategizing, course correcting, figuring out how they can do things better. Not all leaders do that. And so often my clients will acknowledge themselves for that, for just taking that time to do that. Often they'll acknowledge themselves for having difficult conversations, a conversation that maybe they've been procrastinating, or a conversation that they've had a number of times, but this time they tried it a little differently and it actually made a difference. Often they'll acknowledge themselves for things that they've done outside of work, like, I really want to acknowledge myself for waking up early and going for my run, or going to the gym this morning, because I haven't been for the last few days and I've been noticing my energy low. And so there are lots of different things that you can acknowledge yourself for in terms of actions. And then again, remember, it's really important to also acknowledge the character traits. So it's like, I want to acknowledge myself for being vulnerable, or I want to acknowledge myself for being courageous, or for being focused, or for being thoughtful. Lots of different ways of being that you can acknowledge yourself for. Now, I hope that has been helpful. There's a lot more I can say about this, but I think I'll stop here for now. And I really encourage you to just take a minute to acknowledge yourself and genuinely feel the acknowledgement of that. And I would love to hear from you. So leave a comment below, acknowledge yourself, or let me know your thoughts on self-acknowledgement. And I'll see you again soon.